Watch this video before 2024, which, depending on where you're at on the planet, yeah, it might be a little bit too late already, but you get the point. So I really want us to remember that we can control our energy. We can focus on our day-to-day actions within our life, our businesses, bringing that order to the chaos that is all around us, whether it's within our family, whether it's in our business, our community, our church. Now is the time for you that are watching this video to step up and answer the call for your community, for your family, and for humanity that is in the middle of something that is so crazy, so unbelievable, and it's going to get even crazier over the next year. What I'm talking about is specifically when you look at the financial economic turmoil, the looming recession. We've had the second longest yield curve inversion ever. And if it continues until February, it'll be the longest yield curve inversion ever. That always is the run up. That's always what takes place before a recession. And then you see that we've, apparently killed inflation. We've ended the supply chain crisis. Everything's starting to get back to normal, or at least the new normal, right? But it still doesn't feel right, does it? It still kind of feels off. But as we look towards 2024, what I want our community to be prepared for is the fact that the distractions are going to pick up, the chaos is going to pick up, but our activity, our investments, and everything that we're doing should match that energy. Now, what I'm watching for is the Bank Term Funding Program, the BTFP. It's one of the liquidity backstops that was set forward in basically March of this year when the banking crisis happened. The banking crisis isn't over. Just like I said, the events of 2020, that never ended. It's just kind of shifted, right? And this is all part of one cycle that we're in the middle of right now. 2024 is looking to be the climax, actually, of this kind of moment in history. So watch out for this. This is going to be insane. But the BTFP, one of the liquidity backstops for the banking system, I'm not going to confuse you guys on what this is. I'm just going to keep it simple. Liquidity backstop, we could call it excess savings, which also, when you look at Americans' excess savings, they're set to run out of excess savings by March, April, sometime in the beginning of this year. Well, similar to Americans, we have the banks, and they have different backstops. And the Fed, along with the Treasury, had to come out in March of last year and basically do a full backstop of the whole system. And what Janet Notel and Yellen said is that if you're systemically important, we will save you, but we do not care about a small regional bank in Kansas or Kentucky, or, if you're not systemically important, we don't care if you get sacrificed. But this, has we see a record amount of money in money market funds and new cash that is waiting to get deployed here. And it's because folks have gone to safety. They've gone to treasuries, they've gone to bonds, they've gone to cash, they've gone to high yield savings. You can actually get 5% on a savings account now at most banks. They'll actually give you a little bit of a return. But I say all this to say that we're lining up for a moment where they need an event. They need something to cover up, and they need an excuse for the Fed to come back in, cut rates, and turn back on the money printer, just like they did in 2020. This is the critical part. I'm not going completely to cash or completely to gold and just heading for the bunker just quite yet. What I'm doing right now is I'm keeping some skin in the game as far as investments. You guys know I love XRP. I have a few other positions there as well. I have my silver for savings. And then right now I'm looking at private equity and I'm looking at real estate. I'm expecting another V-shaped recovery just like we got in March of 2020. We got that massive crash. I think we could see something similar. And then the response from the Fed will be pretty much the same as well, where they're going to cut rates, maybe not all the way to zero like they did in 2020, but they're going to cut rates. They're going to turn back on the money printer. Biden is going to literally try to forgive as much debt as he can and buy as many votes as he can, or at least for the Democratic Party and whoever they decide to run. Who knows if Biden will even run, right? I'm not here to get into the Biden-Trump discussion. The point being is for us to understand that we probably have a catalyst that brings us back down, that corrects this market. We're at all-time high prices for the major indexes for the stock market, S&P, Dow Jones, NASDAQ. And so I'm just expecting a correction. It doesn't even have to be the end of the world, just a normal correction. And when you look at commodities to equities too, there's a big correction there to be had, which is why we're positioned in commodities. It's why for private equity, I'm actually looking at mining companies, and the miners have a long ways to catch up, but that's a different story for a different video. For the average American, here's what I want you to understand. V-shaped recovery is probably what's going to happen here because they can't let the system burn down to the ground completely during this election cycle if they want to be able to maintain power and control. Um, what they have lined up for this country, though, is for most folks to be so anxious, so stressed, in so much tension, so much fear that they can't even take action. Yeah, I mean, we're so far away from being able to start a side hustle, start a business, make investments, research cryptocurrencies. I mean, how can you have time to research cryptocurrencies when you're just struggling to make ends meet? And this is why the gap between the rich and the poor will only accelerate during this moment in time. Whatever temporary dip that we get, if it's a crash, if it's a dip, whatever it ends up being, I think that we quickly get that response and then we come back up, and you're going to see these assets go to the moon once again. And I'm talking about Bitcoin and cryptos, and I'm also talking about the stock market as well. And also for real estate too, there's really, a big reset in real estate that's underway. There's multiple trillions of dollars worth of commercial debt that has to be restructured just in the next couple years. This is a major, major problem. But the issue is that with inflation, and what it's done here is that even if the average house does come down slightly, 10-20%, for most people it's still not affordable. And so this is why we just hit a record amount of homelessness in the United States last year. Right? Like I said, that gap between the haves and the have-nots. And specifically what we're talking about is having assets. I mean, now I know for me, I thank God that at least I have a job. I have an income, right? I have the ability to make money for my family. I'm just thankful for that. Let alone, can I catch some gains on my cryptos, bro, right? So for us, it's a matter of being able to ride out the storm. You need cash, you need to be liquid, and you need to make sure that you're making as much cash as possible. I'm not saying work yourself to death, but you got to work yourself till you have enough to be able to cover the cost of living. Even if prices are coming down slightly like they say they are, when you've gone up 50 to 100% in the last 2 years, and then you come back down 5%, that doesn't really move the needle that much for the average person, right? So we need to be focusing on making 50 to 100% more than we were before 2020, which is it's a tough one to swallow, but we have to understand that that's the current situation. We will never be able to build wealth. We'll never be able to even survive or make it if we don't get to that point, let alone being able to buy assets and see those assets appreciate. This is what's called stagflation. It's the worst case scenario. And I think that our country's being primed for stagflation, where although the dollar continues to get devalued, demand is coming down, but prices are still going up. This is stagflation. During deflation, demand's coming down and prices are coming down. During inflation, demand's going up and demand exceeds current prices, and so prices keep on going up, and you get into an inflationary cycle. Are we on hyperinflation? Well, it's papered over by manipulated data. So, I mean, like I said, if you look at the CPI, 90% of the items and goods that make up the CPI are up 20 to 50% since 2020. So I'm not just saying that inflation's worse than they're telling us. It is. It's been confirmed in 90% of those data points. It's all manipulated data. But the worst case is stagflation, and that's where we're set up, where demand's falling off, we're potentially entering into a recession, but asset prices don't correct because they're printing so much money. They're doing stimulus, don't pay your student loan, let's forgive you for this, let's forgive you for that. We don't want to offend you. Don't even call it a recession. Don't you dare call it a recession because that's politically incorrect. That's what we're lining up for. And you would have to be an absolute moron to believe the White House press secretary when she's saying that Bidenomics is working fantastic. And most people, even Democrats too, are fed up with what's taking place now. For me, it's not left right. It's a matter of, are you getting on the right side of the transfer of wealth? I don't just do this to make a meme. I don't do this because it sounds cool. This literally will be the greatest transfer of wealth in world history. The part that adds a little bit of extra value to this transfer of wealth is the fourth industrial revolution and the speed at which value will move. This is why you're seeing companies that are essentially, were a figment of somebody's imagination, were able to command a $47 billion IPO for WeWork during, the pandemic. And then now the company's bankrupt and it's at, what is it, $1? I don't know what it traded down to, but it lost 99% of its value. So we're at the end of a cycle of massive money printing, and this is when the value of these currencies, get devalued the most. The good news is if you can get into the position of acquiring assets, you get to ride that wave up, and the asset appreciation that we're going to experience will be great. And then the next move that we need to focus on is what are we going to do with our crypto gains? What are you going to do with your stocks? For example, for those of you that have a 401k retirement account, what are you doing right now? Do you even know what's in your 401k? Because the studies and the reports that we hear is that about 50% of Americans don't even know what's in their 401k. This is why I make the content that I do, is because I'm not here to be your financial advisor, but I want you to be able to pull up to your financial advisor or give them a call if you'll pick up the phone and, ask them questions about how you're being positioned right now. I know that a lot of people are caught up and kind of stuck in the 401k system because of your job. And I love the fact that a lot of people's companies will match what you put into a 401k. Um, or even if you don't even add to your 401k, you just take what your company gives you, right? I love that. That's great. And now we're starting to see more options for investment opportunities for 401k retirement accounts. But I just ask for those that have been in the traditional, equities, bonds, the 60/40 portfolio that Wall Street recommends you, that had its third worst year last year. What's the move now? And so if you're new here, get tapped in, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our updates. I am going to be dropping we're going to be going live here tonight at 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern. Going to be dropping another update. But for me, it's just a matter of educating the community. I'm not here to be the guru. I'm just a regular guy shooting a video here in my car. But I operate in a way that's transparent as far as how am I going to try to survive what they're sending at us this next year. 2024, I think, is going to be one of the most insane years. I mean, I think it could surpass 2020. I think this could be the climax of kind of the most recent events, the current cycle that we're in, that really picked up in 2020, right? So we're going to be watching this one closely. I'm going to keep everyone up to date. We have so much content. I'm so excited for our community. The momentum behind what we've been building out is absolutely massive. Already got a few meetups planned for our Discord community coming up this year. It's just going to be a big, big year. And the work that we've been putting in, the seeds that we've been planting, we're starting to see them already sprout. Some have already blossomed, but we have a lot more that we've been planting and a lot more yield that's going to be generated from the investments that we've been making in our education, whether it's on business investments, understanding the financial markets, decoding the economic data, or breaking down the current events. Tying it all together in a way that's consumable for the average person is my mission. So if you appreciate what we do, I just want to say thank you for the support over this past year. If you could like the video, if you can share out our content far and wide, everything else is found at my website, zachrector.com. Cheers to 2024. I'll see you in the live show here tonight. We're going to absolutely go kill it in 2024. God bless you all.